Welcome back to Lazy History Club, the only history show that dares ask the important questions like, what happens when a king decides toilets are the enemy? Grab your chamber pot, light a candle, and beware of where you step, because today we're diving into the very fragrant tale of King Louis XV, a man who ruled France with powdered wigs, golden shoes, and an iron ban on indoor plumbing. Yes, you heard that right. The man banned toilets in his own palace. Why? Well, assassination paranoia, royal drama, and a very smelly misunderstanding of basic hygiene. Let's flush out the truth, shall we? Versailles, the crown jewel of French opulence, mirrors, chandeliers, fountains shaped like mythical beasts, and behind every embroidered curtain, a puddle, a stench, a desperate duke awkwardly looking for a tree. In the 1700s, Versailles had no modern plumbing. Courtiers relieved themselves in chamber pots, closets, stairwells, or sometimes just a decorative vase. Servants would toss the contents out windows, ideally not onto the heads of nobles below, but accidents happened. And then came Louis XV, a king known for his refined tastes, fragile ego, and crippling fear that someone might sneak through a drainpipe and stab him in the butt. So he made a royal decision: close the privies, board up the latrines, seal the poop chutes. He would not, absolutely would not, be assassinated by a ninja crawling out of the toilet. In 1738, Louis XV issued one of his most bizarre edicts. All privies and hidden passages in Versailles were to be sealed. This was not a minor adjustment. Entire wings of the palace lost their bathrooms. Existing facilities were bricked over, locked up, or transformed into reading closets, which, ironically, many nobles still used as toilets. What sparked this odd royal crackdown? A rumour. Yes, just a rumour, that spies were sneaking into the palace through waste tunnels to plant poison or plot regicide. It was France's 18th century version of toilet-based conspiracy theories. One noble wrote in his diary, "The king believes enemies travel by stink." Another wrote, "We now relieve ourselves in vases." Again. Elegant, no? Toilet ban in place. Versailles descended into something between a slapstick comedy and a sanitation disaster. Courtiers were forced to improvise. Servants stood watch to warn of royal patrols. Hidden chamber pots were disguised as footstools. Nobles held meetings outdoors, just so they could relieve themselves behind a bush mid-conversation. And those grand gold-embroidered gowns the nobility wore? Perfect for hiding a chamber pot underneath. Just don't stand too close. Meanwhile, palace staff were constantly on surprise stink patrol, searching for secret latrine use. Punishments included fines, demotions, or, in rare cases, being reassigned to clean out the royal waste cellar. A job described by one servant as hell with perfume. Why was Louis so afraid of being murdered via toilet? Well, he'd survived multiple assassination plots already. In 1757, a man actually stabbed him with a knife, not from a toilet, but still. The trauma stuck, and so his fear grew. He began sleeping in hidden rooms. He used decoy beds. He had his guards inspect every bucket, curtain, and chamber pot. One guard swore the king once refused to use the same chamber pot twice, in case it had been booby-trapped. At one point, the king even suggested commissioning a royal portable toilet carriage that could follow him from room to room, manned by 2 guards and sealed in wax. It never happened, but only because no one could agree on the royal colour scheme. With toilets banned and no modern plumbing, Versailles became infamous. Visitors often commented not on its beauty, but its smell. An English diplomat in 1745 described the palace as a gilded rotting onion, splendid at a glance, but it offends the nose with every step. Even Marie Antoinette, decades later, reportedly refused to visit certain wings because they smelled like 100 hidden chamber pots left out in the sun. Perfume became essential, not for elegance, but for survival. People carried scented handkerchiefs, stuffed herbs in their wigs, or dabbed vinegar under their noses just to get through a conversation. One noble wrote, "The odour is so thick, I believe it wears a crown, but humans are stubborn, and courtiers were tired of exploding vases and public peeing." So began the toilet rebellion of the rich. Secret bathrooms were built behind bookshelves. Bath closets were disguised as music rooms. One duchess even had a harp built that doubled as a folding toilet. She called it her lave harp. An underground map circulated among staff, showing which fireplaces and dumbwaiters had been repurposed as emergency urinals. And yet, through it all, Louis remained blissfully unaware, or perhaps knowingly in denial. After all, a king can't admit defeat to feces. It wasn't until Louis XV's death in 1774 that Versailles began to breathe again, figuratively and literally. His grandson, Louis XVI, quietly reversed many of his grandfather's policies. Among them, reopening sealed privies, installing early forms of indoor waste management, encouraging courtiers to use designated bathroom areas instead of, say, the hallway vase. It was a slow, hesitant transition, but Versailles began to smell slightly less like a zoo and more like a poorly ventilated garden party. Progress? And so ends the reign of France's most anti-toilet monarch. King Louis XV may be remembered for his opulence, his love of mistresses, and his elaborate hair powder. But perhaps, just perhaps, we should remember him as the man who bricked over every toilet in Versailles, because he thought someone might crawl out and stab him, which is somehow both ridiculous and painfully relatable. Until next time, may your throne be safe, your chamber pot empty, and your window under no suspicious buckets. Good night from Lazy History Club.